So Deepak Chopra, who is the author of the book that we have started exploring last week, has taken this ancient tradition of royal yoga and updated it, if you will, overlaid it with modern day language and understanding and examples so that we can embody it in a way that brings us, the goal is self-realization. It is that same goal of realizing who we are and that the presence of God is in the midst of all that we are and of everyone else. The first two chapters reflect that because the first chapter that we explored last week is called Social Intelligence, and today's is called Emotional Intelligence. And these are concepts and ideas that have only been around for 20 or 30 years. They're just now coming into common vernacular in our everyday language. We explored what that ability, what that expanded awareness of social intelligence was last year, it seems like last year, I swear. And it seems like yesterday. That's the paradox. It's all about awareness. It's about curiosity. It's about self-responsibility for our own story and the way that we're living it. And it comes, this social intelligence, the main goal of it is to be able to live peacefully with everyone. Seems like a pretty lofty goal, but that's the full realization of social intelligence. The second week is all about emotional intelligence. He writes that the emotionally intelligent person is able to experience an emotion, recognize what they are feeling, and not feel the need to respond right away. It's the ability, in other words, to self-regulate our emotions and our actions. So I got curious as I was working with this material. I thought, well, how did Jesus demonstrate? Because if he is this fully actualized spiritual being in this human expression, how did he demonstrate social and emotional intelligence? I mean, obviously, those words are not found anywhere in the scriptures, but how would that show up in the way that he interacted with people in his time here on the earth? And when I'm looking at it, the scriptures from this lens, what I realized that Jesus was a master with his emotions, except for the one little scripture that they talk about him turning over the tables, and people ascribe that to anger. I'm not sure, why exactly. Most of the time, even though Jesus was constantly being questioned and attacked, he was able to be present and to not necessarily react in the same way that the rest of us humans often do. He embodied this human form, so he got to experience emotions. So it wasn't that he didn't have an experience of these emotions, and he got, just like we do, to interact with a whole lot of different people. Some that got what he was saying, and many that just thought he was crazy or dangerous. So there was a story in John 8, just as an example, when the religious leaders were once again trying to sort of get him to break the law so they would have a reason to arrest him. And they bring to him this woman who they say, she is a proven adulterer, and Moses' law says that when someone is an adulterer that they should be stoned to death. What do you say we should do? And the first thing that he does is he kind of squats down, and we're told he starts writing something in the sand. He's doodling in the sand. We don't really know what, but he's pausing. He's taking a moment to collect his thoughts. He was a master at doing this so that he could answer in a way that was true to his beliefs, his understanding, his God self, and yet not necessarily something that could be viewed as law-breaking in the eyes of those asking. Anybody remember how he responded? What? She's got some good catechism in her long-term memory. What she said was, let he, or yeah, in those days it would have just been he, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Instead of them being able to then come back with anything, it was an answer that was so radically true that they simply walked away without resulting in the woman getting stoned. It's like brilliant. When you look at his response, it's like, man, you know, how many times do we wish like we were in the middle of something and go, oh, if I could only have said that, you know. It both put him in the right space, you know, it got his message across, but it wasn't done in a way that was attacking or that was responding to say, oh my, you know, you guys are just ridiculous and stupid in the way that you're thinking about things. I don't know. I don't know if his writing on the ground was a way sort of managing his emotions, or if it was something else symbolically, a way for him to just get clarity and wisdom around this. I mean, I'm sure his first reaction would have been, oh, you know, let me just zing them one right back. I see what they're trying to do. But he took the time until he could formulate what he needed to say that was both wise and calm, in a way that put the whole situation to rest, if you will, because there was nothing left to be said. As a human being, Jesus certainly felt happy and sad and disappointed and frustrated and anger and fearing and loving and curious and all of the myriad of emotions that all human beings, at least in potential, have the opportunity as part of their experience. So the problem for us is not that we have these feelings. We all do. It's part of our human experience. It's normal, if you will. The challenge for us is how do we respond to them? And that's what this whole practice is about, and the invitation to practice. The other thing that Jesus seemed to be able to do that to us, or at least to me, is amazing. I mean, I've had a few experiences, but he had the ability to sort of read the room. He had the ability to know what other people were feeling. The gospel says that Jesus, he knew what they were thinking before they even spoke, or he knew what they needed. He knew what they might be going to say next. And I don't think it's a supernatural power that only available to the fully awakened beings. I think it's something that we all have. And it comes when we are in a greater heightened awareness of our social and our emotional intelligence. It's the ability to sort of be aware of, be in that observer mode of body language, to be able to look at facial expressions and the tone of the voice, which is more and more difficult these days when we communicate so much via text and via email, and we make up in our minds. We overlay it with a false sense of tone and meaning behind it. But he could actually, I think, look into their eyes, took the time. It's something that we don't do very often anymore either, is truly be present and look into their eyes and almost be able to see their heart and their soul as a result. So the more self-aware that we each are of our own feelings, of our thoughts, of our motivations, our actions, sometimes difficult to do in the moment, but at least to become more aware when we can step away and look at it, the more we become aware of the feelings and the thoughts and the motivations of others. In other words, when we have greater clarity, it not only changes the lens from which we see the world, but we can see more clearly where other people are. The power of emotional intelligence is the ability to know and understand not only what we're feeling, but what other people are feeling. To know and to care about others and what they're going through, and then to be able to use that in interacting with them, in supporting them, in being a loving presence to them. If we want to expand our emotional intelligence, if we want to up the way that we can work with these things called feelings and emotions in our lives, the author suggests a number of practices. And, you know, if you've got the book or are working with the book, there's lots and lots in there. There's, 5 or 6 for each day that you can work with. So it's not meant that, this is going to all happen overnight, but it perhaps will spark something that resonates with you that you can begin to work with. He starts by saying that we have to do some work about clearing our emotional toxins, is what he calls them. Those things that sort of have been stuck in us, that to begin to be aware of and transform or release those things. Here's one really important practice that he suggests, that you get 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Where have we heard this before? Many places are now saying this. In fact, science has discovered that it takes that long to reset the sympathetic nervous system. Now, the sympathetic nervous system is the part of us that is always on high alert to danger and to stress, and it is constantly then pouring in that sort of fight or flight cortisol energy into our bodies. Even if there isn't real danger happening, and there very rarely is physically for us, but we also use it to try and interpret danger coming at an emotional level or at a mental level, that, there's something that someone's about to attack and I need to be ready to defend. So to reset that, it takes sleep. And it takes a fair amount of sleep, something that a lot of us don't get. And otherwise, we're just constantly running in this fear, high alert status that makes it very difficult to find any kind of level of awareness. Because when you're on high alert, you're not going to ponder what's really happening with my feelings, okay? The two don't work well together. And the author also suggests, and I haven't done enough research, or I don't know if there is really research on this, that sleep seems to clear away that toxic debris, all that stuff we take in. Sleep is the way that we can process it and release it. The second thing he suggests is that we get out in nature as much as possible. I know Jeff has been lamenting over the hot summer that he can't get out there and grow anything and dig. There is a real restorative process, a way that helps us be in a calmer space so that we can pay attention more to what's happening within our bodies and in our minds. And this is the perfect time of year to begin to practice that, as these temperatures make it possible. In the wintertime in the north, people talk about being cooped up in the house for many months because of the deep freeze that they want to go. And for us, it's the summer. And we've spent months now not spending a whole lot of time outdoors because it's just been too darn hot to do so. So, and doing that as part of our being out in nature is also to add some physical activity. Just that motion of our bodies helps us be able to move through our mental and emotional states better too. He says, take time each day for what he calls in time and downtime. In time for interconnection and reflection, and downtime just to simply be. How often can we just simply be without going, even in our minds, going, I need to get that done, and I need to go here, and we're always either doing or doing mental lists. So finding some time to just simply be. So we're going to take a few moments right here today to go ahead and have a little in time, if you will, and hopefully it can also be a feeling of downtime too as we move into our opportunity to bring our attention within and see if we can't have an experience of a greater heightened awareness to our emotional intelligence, what it might look and feel. And as I shared last week, there are physical yoga poses that the second half of the book reflects upon. We did this pose of worship last week. I'm going to make it a little simpler. We're going to use the Namaste pose, which is just simply your hands together over your heart center. And we say this each week when we're appreciating people, but Namaste, for those who may not be as familiar with that term, simply means that in Eastern terms, the divine in me recognizes the divine that's in you, or the Christ in me, recognize the Christ that is in you, or whatever words you want to put to it. Excuse me. So I just invite you now to kind of get comfortable where you are. Pay attention to physically how you're sitting right now. You may want to have your feet on the floor, your legs uncrossed. Just pay attention to your hands and where they're resting right now, and just get yourself into as comfortable a position as you can. It's often good to close your eyes just to block out that external world, but you can even just focus on some point in the room if that's more comfortable. And notice the breath. Just notice it. You don't even have to take in deeper breaths, but just notice that breath that is always flowing in and out of your body, even though we're unconscious of it for large parts of our day. Just notice your body as that breath comes in and out. And since we are looking for that broader wisdom than just what the mind can offer, imagine that that thinking part of you is slowly sinking down into your heart space. It just comes to rest gently there in the center of your being, where the wisdom of God resides within each of us. Now, using your gift of imagination, whether that's to sense or to see or to hear, or to simply just feel. Imagine that you were just told that a trusted family member or friend has been saying critical things about you to others. And just notice what you're feeling as you imagine you've received that news. It might be anger or sadness. You might begin to question that friendship. Think about getting back at them or saying damaging things in return. Now take a deep breath and either imagine or physically just hold your hand up to signal a timeout. Sit quietly until that immediate reaction begins to die down, and you can see it and be with it from that wisdom of the heart. Just focus on breathing until the emotions begin to dissipate. Now take a moment just to be open to what may truly be happening. Perhaps what has been reflected to you as fact is not really the truth of what has unfolded. Remember that there have been times in your life that you've probably had worse criticism than this, and you have survived, and you've sought a way to understand. And then see if you can't offer a sense of forgiveness for this friend or family member. realizing that whatever was said out of the space that they were in, not necessarily as a reflection of you. And just be with that for a moment. And know that however your next encounter with this person is, you will be able to be present from this wisdom in your heart, that you will know and be guided what to say and how to bring whatever is unfolded to a place of reconciliation and love. And then, as you're ready, begin to bring your attention back to this time and space and the area around you, the sounds in the room, your physical body. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. So the author writes that the more often we do this, the more often we're really willing to be in this time of reflection, of curiosity, of managing, giving our emotions a space so that they can be felt and then released and not necessarily reacted from, the closer that we move to what he calls our true self. Our divine self, our spiritual self, our Christ self, whatever name you want to call it. And that part of us is never wounded. That part of us really cares nothing about criticism. It doesn't take it personally. It sees everyone in the light of loving acceptance and brings compassion and forgiveness to each situation. So the final practice that I want to leave you with as an invitation to play around with is one that he calls surrendering to the unknown. To recognize that there is a higher reality and to be willing to suspend the parts of you who may not be as engaged in that and just be willing. Whoa. That's my cloth. All right, we'll pull that back down again. And it's not like ordinary surrender, like human surrender, which involves giving in to someone else's demands or sacrificing what we want for the good of someone else. It's simply the recognition that there is more to this journey, there is more to what is unfolding than just our human experiences. The mystery that says, there is something greater as part of this whole little part that we get to play at work, even if we don't know what it is. A mystery that perhaps we'll never fully understand, but we can at least acknowledge is a part of this journey that we're on. It calls for setting aside time to simply contemplate the bigger picture. You know, one of the best ways you can do this is through nature, especially those majestic parts of nature, where you sit there and you go, man, millions of years and I'm just this small blip in all that's been unfolding. Not to say that it's not an important blip, because we each have a place in it, but to recognize that some of the things that we get so wrapped up in, that we expend so much energy around, really don't mean much anything in the big mystery of it all. This isn't a journey from A to B. Rather, it's a journey to uncover and discover this true self who has always been. It's a soul's journey, and it is the common destination that each of us are on. It's the one thing that we all have in common. Very unique ways of experiencing that journey, but we are all on this same journey. So some ways, he says, to start this process is to read some inspirational poetry or scripture or books that remind you that there's so much more going on in this eternal world than just the challenges that we're facing in the moment. To allow nature to remind you of the scale and the majesty of this eternal journey. I love when I need, at the end of the day, just to breathe and get a broader perspective than just the one I've been living that day. I can't necessarily go to the Grand Canyon or, to some beautiful mountainous range. But if you have PBS Passport, Ken Burns National Parks will put you in that. It really will. I love it. It gives me such a sense of awe. And that is where the whole transcendental and new thought movement, all that, nature played a huge role in just being willing to contemplate the amazing unfolding of nature helps give us some perspective on the unfolding of our part, of our own human nature. To follow your creative impulses and to take time to offer gratitude for your unique place in this divine plan. He reminds us that in a detective fiction, a mystery is something to be solved, the guilty need to be unmasked so that justice prevails. The mystery of God, being in this mystery place as part of our journey, this creative source, it works very differently. It is all about unmasking what is already present, both in the universe and in ourselves. This isn't knowledge that you learn. This is knowledge that you become. And it all starts in the heart. Namaste. Well, it is our opportunity now to share of our financial good through the channels, through you, which is our primary channel, and the many other ways in which we receive our good. In just a moment, the ushers are going to invite you to come up row by row and place your gift in the large basket, or just add your energy to it if this is not your Sunday to give, or you give through our electronic program. And then also to receive. We always want to be in balance in that giving and receiving, and there's an affirmation that you can select to bless you this week. So let us take what we offer today, what we offer throughout the month, into our hands and into our hearts, and bless it together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Father, Mother God. Into this day and the days to come, may we feel that sense of presence of God in the midst of all that we do and experience, and take a moment to pause and allow ourselves to be and speak as the presence of God. We go into this awareness knowing our prayer for protection. Together, the light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. All right.